on the point that I was making, you know, I do see a lot more unison nowadays from, you know, so-called black people around the world, you know, identifying with others and stuff like that, more so than they did at one stage before. And it's like I said, you know, it isn't new. We've had people come and bring us messages as such throughout the years to galvanize people where they could and stuff. So how do you feel seeing all of that nowadays?
Okay, well, I think it is actually fulfillment of scripture. It is also science. It is also an understanding that is being born into the world in itself and its various peoples. Because, you know, I was saying that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad basically taught us that the black man is the original man. And then he went on further to explain how all the other races of man. So, are we live?
Yeah, we're still rolling. So yeah, when you're ready, you pick it back up.
Okay. So the reason why I wanted to bring the Honorable Elijah Muhammad into this is because he taught that the original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. You know, and that in itself is a very potent statement that is full of high science in it. So he was speaking about the condition of being black, or the state of being black, and what that is, and the history thereof, and how other people come into being, which ultimately shows that everybody came from the same source, if you see what I'm saying. And what's happening right now is that there is a global awakening and a reclaiming of that fact. But as most revelation occurs, it occurs in a time of confusion, it occurs in a time of pain, it occurs with pain and with confusion, you know, and so black people as a global reality have been asserting their rights as people, and it seems to have fallen on deaf ears for a very long time, you know. And I'm not saying that everything is where it should be right now, but what I'm saying is that we are seeing unraveling processes of that exposure of what really is. We also have a generation, and I want to give credit to the current generation of young people, because this generation of young people, black, brown, red, yellow, and white, you know, are shaking off and rejecting old ideas, the old ideas that kept the world backward, wherein racism and classism and other forms of division that is used to manage or govern people were, you know, running freely. So now we have a generation that is actually questioning those things. You know, did you know, P, that there is something called whiteness studies, and it goes back into the 70s, you know, where basically white people were questioning their own behavior and trying to understand it from that perspective, that why do we wreak so much trouble on the planet? You know, now, am I saying that white people are the only ones that do that? No. But what I'm saying is that white people have been the most powerful group of people on the planet for the last 4,000 to 6,000 years. And that is borne out in history. You know, that's why we even talk about white supremacy. You know, you can talk about black supremacy as a supposed idea, but there is, if you look in the dictionary, you won't find anything called black supremacy, because there's no such thing. We as a people don't deal with those realities. This is an imposition that has come from, you know, Europe and Europeans, you know, and even if you look at the whole construct of race, you know, when in fact that, you know, that term race was coined, I understand it was actually coined out of Oxford University, you know, and quite more recent than we think. So without belaboring the point, brother, we're seeing a global generation. There are white people who are fed up of the injustice that white people are meeting on the planet. There are white people who are saying we are not a part of this. We are unfortunately connected to it by the advent of history, but we would rather things were different. And those people are speaking out. Those people are doing, I mean, I'm listening to stuff and I can't believe I'm actually listening to white people making a case. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I personally, do you know what I mean? I personally think that that is where the world is going. We're going towards truth, and truth in honesty knows no bounds. It knows no color. It knows no ethnicity. Truth is truth. So we're getting closer and closer to that. I also saw a couple of videos, one from a female and the other from a male, of the Asian community, the Muslim community in particular, admitting how they view Black people and how they've treated Black people, going into the aspect of what they call Black people and whether, the test would be, would you want your child to marry a Black person, So I saw a female talking about that, then from this country. Then I saw a male from America, an Asian male, talking about the same thing, saying that no, the Asian community now needs to also show where it stands, because it's not just a black and white problem. This is a human problem. This is a systemic problem. This is an international and global problem. So why am I saying that? I'm saying that, brother, because the generation that is the millennials, the generation of today, the generation that is the adults of today, and the generations that are coming tomorrow, don't share necessarily those same racist and ignorant concepts that the forefathers brought forward. So Black inferiority is rejected and denied, as same as white supremacy. But Minister Farrakhan taught us that white supremacy produces in the reverse Black inferiority, and Black inferiority and white supremacy are both evil and should not exist. So these are things, brother, that we're coming into the light of, So yeah, I think that goes somewhere into answering the question that you asked.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, and I do want to mirror that and say peace to the young people of today, man, because I've spoken out and said similarly. I've been definitely proud of seeing how they've represented and been able to come together and even just show and speak their message, and it's spoken in volumes and mirrored around the world and stuff like that as well. There's a powerful image that I've seen go worldwide, and it was actually taken in Birmingham at one of the protests. And it's one of the young people, he got a sign saying, "You didn't F with the last generation." And but it was actually taken outside the library in Birmingham at one of the protests there. But even that imagery has been so powerful that it's reached and moved people all around the world and stuff as well. And has definitely been, a figure in just the movement that the young people are bringing together. So I want to say peace to them, man, definitely. One of the points you made, I was trying to get into it. Speaking of, because I agree with what you say, how I sort of see things somewhat as well. But what about those who will say, because sometimes I think with us, we have to be careful of, I never want to be like a hypocrite. And sometimes we can be guilty of a lot of things too, which is what I've been saying to others as well. We can sit there even through the trials and tribulations that others have subjected us to as well, but we can be guilty of things in different varieties and different forms. So I think sometimes there's a lot of ignorance as well that has been passed down to us in a that has made some of us develop an anti-mindset to a lot of other people in an erroneous way sometimes as well, because we're not seeing that there can be value in others. Some will argue that it's not possible, especially we talk about the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We talk about, certain nation teachings with the 5%ers and stuff as well. Some will say some of these other people who are a certain way by nature cannot be reformed and stuff, or they can't be good. Some may say that's ludicrous. People can be good. People, can sort of change and develop out of their old ways. Do you feel sometimes we're stuck with sometimes our old doctrines, sometimes in belief systems that then disallow us to be able to look at others in a different light as well? Or do you think, because some will say the old teachings can't be changed or can't be obscured, and then there's always going to be something that contradicts it. What do you think about that?
Okay, very, very good and excellent question, my dear brother. You know, what I would say to that is that, you know, with everything, we have to look at what is actually being said. We have to see things for what they are. You know, we have to actually scientifically look at things and work them out. Do you know what I mean? So I take the view that for maybe someone without the knowledge, they cannot reform a particular person. But if they have the knowledge, then if you've got the knowledge of something, if you know the science of it and how it works, then of course you can bring about the result that you want. The problem we have is that we don't have sometimes the requisite knowledge that is required to produce true reform. Just like, I'll give an example of the prison reform system. It's meant to be a penal system. It's meant to be something that actually someone goes in and comes out better or good. But they go in and they come out hardened. They go in and come out even worse than before. They go in and become institutionalized. Well, what does that tell us? That tells us that the people that are actually over that are administering that, you know, are not getting the result of what that thing is meant to produce. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you know, there is a question that, you know, the actual question is, can you reform devil? And, you know, the answer is no.
In fact,
you know, many prophets have tried. Do you know what I mean? You know, yeah. So when we look at that, then yeah, for a prophet to reform a devil is beyond the prophet's ability, because a prophet is a prophet. But can God reform devil? Well, the first thing that we can look at with regards to that is that God is actually has to take credit for the creation of the devil. So to say that he can't reform the devil would be to say that he can't take control of what he created. You see what I mean? So the answer is, of course, you know, they can be reformed, you know, but it takes that level of skill and knowledge to do that, which is rare, you know, so you'd have to look somewhere for it. And I will go a little bit further into it by saying that, you know, the founder of the Nation of Islam, Master Tawanda Muhammad, comes from both people, you know, and his mission is to give justice to both people, you know, so he has to be able and was put through that in order to be able to do that. Otherwise, he wouldn't claim or take the position that he has, which is to be, you know, the supreme being, you know. So in order to be that, you know, like everything, there has to be an ability that tests that one, you know, that proves that he is who he says he is. So I would say that talking about Master Tawanda Muhammad, I want to mention 4 things, you know, because the position and belief that I hold is that Master Tawanda Muhammad is the Mahdi. And the Mahdi, for those that will know, you can go and do some research actually, but he has 4 functions. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to go through what is relevant for us here. And one of them is that he basically sits down every tyrant. So we're looking at a time now where tyrants are being set down. You know, revolution is breaking out in every part of the world, and tyrants are being thrown off the helm. Do you know what I mean? So the other thing that Master Tawanda Muhammad, in his capacity as Mahdi, does is that he sets justice in the earth. So although the generality and the vast majority and the civilization of white people has been problematic to the whole planet, it would be unjust to label every single person, you know, of that ethnicity, you know, with the same label. You know, which will bring me again to some of the discussions we had when we're speaking about Dianetics. One of the famous things that L. Ron Hubbard said is that basically man is good, and it is this good that we're trying to free. So when you see people not doing the right thing, it means something has interfered with their thought processes and their ability to actually do what is right. Because the nature of man, black, red, yellow, or brown, is to actually do the right thing. Another way of saying it is that God created man in his image and after his likeness. So that's righteousness. But something happened, and this is where mental health comes into it. Something has interfered with the mind. And I can tell you what that is. It is injustice. Minister Farrakhan teaches that injustice produces insanity. So because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught that the mind is constructed to think correctly, but when you enter wrong information and falsehood into the working mechanisms of the mind, you then produce error or evil. So that's what we're dealing with on another level. That's why I was saying Elijah Muhammad earlier, because Elijah Muhammad is one of the most underrated, reformers that has come amongst Black people, and so elevated is his role that it is beyond now a reformer. You'd have to put him, up way up there. Do you know what I mean? But the job of reform, starting with a Black man, there is no equal to what he was actually able to achieve. But this is someone that a lot of people are nervous to open their mouth and talk about. You can ask people questions about the nation, about Elijah. They will run a mile from even entering that sphere. Why? Because there is something that is denied about the said individual. So I would encourage those that are listening to, whether you agree or not, just check out, as a scientist, some of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said about race, about white people, about Black people, about the problem, and about the solution. Because we must be solution orientated. And saying that, I also want to put it out there that on the 4th of July, which is American Independence Day, Minister Farrakhan will be speaking, and it's a message that is a universal message that every single person who has that ability or of that said ability needs to tune into on the 4th of July. I'll probably will send you some information on that that can maybe put up with this so that, people can have that information. But that is very, very important because it will go into some of the solutions to some of the questions what we are here discussing and, looking at, this evening.
Well, we know, especially the minister, peace to the minister and all the great work he's done and continues to do. He's actually sat down and opened up the doors with a lot of different people from different nations around the world and stuff on high levels. You even see, he's got Father Flager and some of those guys. They show ample support and love and stuff. So and often, his image is skewed by the media where they try to paint an image of like he doesn't connect with any other races or people, and that couldn't be far from the truth,
Definitely, that couldn't be far from the truth. Like I said, brother, all you have to do is go to the founder of the Nation of Islam. The founder of the Nation of Islam, Master Tawanda Muhammad. His mother was white and his father was Black. That's the reality of it. So if you've got a white mother and a Black father, and you love your mother and you love your father, how then are you going to have a doctrine that is polluted by an ideology that is racist? You see what I mean? So it's not deep enough in the minds of people. Then you look at what he taught, and then you look at what he was doing. The problem that people have is that they judge a thing without having a comprehensive knowledge of that thing. People have taken an angle and a view, and they've just basically gone off with that. No, you've got to study the thing in its totality in order to come to the fullness of it. Another thing to look at is the fact that white people came from Black people. You know, do you know what I mean? So white people actually came from black people. So there is a connection between white people and black people. They may be two opposite ends of the spectrum, but, you know, I'll give you a quote from Schopenhauer, you know, who was a German philosopher. He said there is no such thing as a white man. Every white man that you see is a faded out or bleached out black man. Now, this is a white man saying that. Do you know what I mean? So it's beyond and it's deeper than what we look at as maybe skin tone or skin color, because it is beyond, you know, color. You know, you're dealing with, ultimately you're dealing with justice and injustice. So that's what prevails. That's what we look at. We look at what is true. We look at what works. We look at what produces results. You know, so that's why things are changing, you know, in my view, brother.
Yeah, no, that's peace. I was going to say, just touching on to that, you know, why do, you know, sometimes we look at things and we think, why aren't things like this taught in the schools? You know, we see a huge uproar of saying, hey, we got to teach kids about modern society. So we're going to teach them about LGBTQ. We're going to teach them about things that we see that are actually prevalent in the society today. But we don't see much emphasis on the discourse to say, let's teach kids about the stuff that we're just speaking about. Let's teach them about race and genetic differences and stuff and similarities, and let's teach them about different faiths and nationalities. I know we have different forms of religious studies and stuff like that, but you get more so my point of making some of this information plain. Some say there may be a change going forward in schooling and legislation and stuff, but why do you think we haven't seen much of that to this day?
Well, you know, I think it depends on what the agenda is and who controls that agenda and what narrative that they want to put out. Because remember, brother, not too long ago, they used to teach that black people have got a smaller brain than other people, but particularly white people. So there are concepts and philosophies that fly out within the construct of, you know, the rulers of the planet. So it's looking at what we can do. We can look at who would it threaten if we taught these concepts in school. That's what would, to me, answer the question. What would it affect and who would it affect? And whoever is at the receiving end of the effect of teaching the truth to our young people is the one that is responsible for teaching an erroneous reality to our young people. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, a man that will not treat you right is also not going to teach you right. So if a man is going to not treat you right, how is the same man going to then teach you right? So if you're already mistreating me, you know, just as a human being, how are you going to teach me correctly? So we have to see the connection between injustice and what then is learned from that. A way of saying that is that an abuser is usually produced by abuse himself. So we've got to follow the trail to see where does this thing start? No. What is the origin? What is the original point of it? You know, so we've got to look at that and we've got to look at what has been going on. But we certainly need to check out, you know, the writings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you know, how he looked at that. We have to look at what the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, you know, put forward, you know, and his philosophies and opinions and the blueprints that he left for us. We've got to look at, you know, people like Noble Drew Ali and basically what he taught and what he left. We've got to look at what we have, you know, and see that all of us, you know, looking at all of it, will be able to then produce a better world. Because knowledge, like we said, is not found in one place. We have to look at what L. Ron Hubbard said and basically how that informs the narrative, how it can. We have to look at other educators, you know, from other different places and areas and what they taught. We have to take the good out of what we have. So we have to maintain that level of study and look at Chinese philosophy and extract truths from it. You know, look at the advent of the Moors.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, with the Eastern philosophy, you got Taoism, you've got loads of different pantheons and things that you can check into. So I definitely agree with that. I think one of the things I was going to ask you as we sort of start winding down is in terms of healing, because a lot of the things we've definitely highlighted is some of the issues and we're looking at solutions, but we know that there's definitely healing that's needed mentally. Some say people should be more open to therapy and different aspects of self-care, and which kind of leads me to the book Dianetics, because some say that's like a form of mental therapy as well too.
Definitely. Well, Dianetics is the modern science of mental health. And Minister Farrakhan, in his wisdom, saw that it was a fitting tool for us to actually learn and to add to our toolbox in order to apply to the traumas that affect our people. You know, so it certainly is one of those things that we must understand. And we must get away from condemning things before we've even looked at them. Do you know what I mean? So we've got to look at it and see, what does it do? How does it work? And how can I use it? Learn the science, use it, and become a master of it. And that's what he basically looked at and said, because of its abilities. I'm not saying that other things should not be studied. By all means, we should look at what is going to make our position better. I'm learning, for example, that there are certain foods to eat and certain foods to stay from. You know, we always had that in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because he produced a body of knowledge called How to Eat to Live. But today, you can see many schools of thought forming around health, you know, as in nutritional health, you know, and some of these things will inevitably go to things like intermittent fasting. But look, Elijah was teaching this, you know, from way back in the day, you know what I mean, before it became a fad. I'm talking about 30s, 40s, 50s, and you know what I mean? It was a standard material. Then, you know, so that's why, again, brother, you bring the point up by the question you ask. We've got to study, you know, I say certainly the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but let's look at the solution bringers that came and what they espoused. And we've got to look at that and check it out. You know, so yes, brother, Dianetics is one of those tools. Just like we need to know the science of construction. So we have to learn how to build.
Yep.
You know, and if you start learning how to build, that doesn't make you a Jew or you know, a white person or any other thing. No, construction. It doesn't make you, you know, for you to learn masonry is not a bad thing. You know what I mean? It's actually a good thing. And I'm not talking about Freemasonry per se, even though, to be honest, before we even shoot that down, what is it? Have we actually even explored what Freemasonry is?
Well,
do you know what I mean? So we've got a lot of things.
They can check out Afro-Kwesi, the African origins of Freemasonry for that one, and a few other ones. It's a quick plug, but yeah,
Definitely, absolutely. There's so many. Dr. Francis Creswellson, we mentioned, you know, there is people like Naima Akbar, you know, there are so many people that have, because the whole planet has been trying to solve these problems. They're not new, and they're not monopolized by one group of people or one set of people. These are universal problems, and therefore there will be, you know, people that have sought answers to that. Bruce Lee wanted to deal with those aspects as well, in the sciences that he taught, in the philosophies that he brought about, you know, and he actually, you know, had to even look at people like Muhammad Ali and study them in order to enhance what he was doing. So we've got to be wise enough to not limit our scope of knowledge and not be prejudiced, you know, to be so closed down that we're not going to learn. No, you know, if truth be told, you could actually look at some of the worst characters in history. But if you're interested in the truth, study some of the things that they did, you know, in terms of advancement, the positive things, you will find a lot of things. So nothing is purely 100%, you know, cannot be used. There is some use, but you've got to look at things and give it a chance and check it out. Do you know what I mean? If you're interested in it.
No, of course.
Because knowledge is infinite, and knowledge is symbolized by a 360-degree circle, which is talking about, you know, a total circumference of something. So we've got to explore more and expose the core, as Guru would say.
Yeah, that's real, man. I was gonna say on that note, one of the things I hear a lot of people say nowadays is even though they're misquoted in what they're saying, they say they're finding black people to be more racist nowadays. Now we know that's more erroneous because we understand that racism is a tool of prejudice plus power. However, you know, it is possible for black people to be prejudiced, and many are. I was going to ask, do you feel, and from what we see sometimes, some of these prejudices that we have are formed somewhat as like a defense mechanism, especially when dealing with systematic racism and stuff like that. Do you think a lot of our people still hold some prejudices towards others that needs to be shaken somewhat as well, because it can in turn lead us back? But a lot of it, some say, was defense mechanism and stuff as well from just harsher times before and harsher experiences.
Okay. Well, thank you again. Very intelligent question, brother. I love that question. Well, what it is, brother, is that from my perspective, is that yes, there is some reactionalism that comes from our people based on their experiences. Because if someone is prejudiced against you, whether it's a white man be prejudiced against a black person or a black person be prejudiced against a white person, there has to be a basis for that prejudice. So we've got to look at, well, what's causing you to be afraid of this person, to be intimidated by this person, or to think that this person is automatically negative. So there is something there, is my point. There is no smoke without a fire. So there are reasons. Now, it doesn't mean that the reasons are correct. Therein, again, is our need to investigate things before we just basically go off on what we think is the case when we've not actually adequately explored. Are black people prejudiced? You know, are some black people prejudiced? Or yes, you know, both negatively and positively. Because there are some black people who are prejudiced in the negative sense, that they'll think, okay, well, you know, because of what these white people have done, da. But there are also some black people who are prejudiced in the, I would say, negative to them, but positive to white people, whereby just because it's a white person, they are inclined to listen. You know, I've seen black people listen to aspects of what we have been talking about as black people for years, but suddenly they accept it because a white person has said it. You know, that's another form of prejudice.
Well, I mean,
so they actually
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, brother.
Sorry to cut you. I was just going to say as a quick point, we're seeing a lot of that now with the whole BLM stuff, where there's been many people who for years haven't, you know, raised any voice or used any of their voice to, you know, and I understand everybody's experience is different, but many who haven't been, you know, spoken out or got behind any kind of causes or anything, but now since the system is sort of speaking out against it, they're speaking out against it. So I was just touching on that too, because we see a lot with just in present time now.
No, definitely. And you know, there is something about the present time and what it is actually stirring up and bringing it about. The thing to always remember, or what I use as my own stable point of information, is the fact that, you know, God is present. And we're actually seeing fulfillment of scripture. I think we mentioned this earlier on. Right. But coming back to that point of black reaction to white people, you know, in order to say whether the reaction is right or wrong, we have to look at what is it based on. If white people, and they have had a history, particularly the police, you know, of brutalizing black people and abusing black people, it is no surprise that black people feel a certain way. I'm not surprised by that. You know, do you know what I mean?
It's like to me,
Yeah, it's a type of intelligence because you know that, you know, dogs bite. So you are cautious. However, I would also say there needs to be an element of rationality about it because not every dog is the same. And again, this is what Dianetics deals with. It actually deals with differentiating between different things because sane thought is to be able to tell the difference between different things. So I may be traumatized, or someone may be traumatized by a white person. And when they come into contact with any white people, they start exhibiting trauma or the effects of trauma. We've got to look at why that is occurring. And that's one of the things that Dianetics actually helps with. You're actually able to locate and uninstall those causative factors. So it's something that we must look at, and which is why, you know, we looked at it. But as a generality, I think Black people have been more, I would say, trusting of white people. You know, based on the historical and racist teaching of how religion was taught that Jesus is white, God is white, the angels are white, Mary's white. So you're under where Black people, well, maybe they're in the kitchen somewhere making some food for somebody. Do you know what I mean? So it's looking at how we've been educated. And now that we come into the knowledge of ourselves and the knowledge of what is actually true, the knowledge of God, the knowledge of self, and the knowledge of the enemy of God or the devil, we then come into a different view. And sometimes when you learn something new, you can actually mishandle what you've known, what you've learned immediately because it's a new thing. There's there's a power that comes with new knowledge. So that also has to be something that is matured into. Sorry, brother, you were saying something.
Yeah, no, I was just attesting to what you were saying and sort of saying it kind of goes hand in hand that sometimes as you do sort of come into that new awareness, there is the sort of mistakes that you're prone to make and stuff as well, just as you sort of navigating through it, because as you said, it's acquiring something new and gaining that familiarity with it, which some say is just a natural part of the process and stuff as well. How in your own experience and findings and stuff, how deep would you say some of these engrams and stuff are in the mind when it comes to just things we've been affected by and how long it can stay in our mental psyche and stuff?
Okay, it's a very good question. It's a very deep one. I'd have to define what an engram is. Okay. You know, for the people that will listen to this, you can actually find that, by the way, in the book Dianetics: The Modern Science of Mental Health by L. Ron Hubbard. It's one of the books that I believe, we should have in our houses. Just like we should have Message to the Black Man in America by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And Our Savior Has Arrived, Theology of Time, How to Eat to Live, Fall of America. All of these things, and look at them not from a prejudiced view, but look at them from a science-based view of things. Philosophy is an opinion of Marcus Garvey. We need to get that. We need to get How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney. I mean, I could give you a list of books that we could get into. The Broader File. There's so many books that we could actually look into. I want to give a shout out to all our authors that have actually put information out for our people to actually get knowledge. People like Sheikh Anta Diop. We need to so much to understand. Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. There is a lot that we could go into, with regards to that. But coming specifically to your question, brother, there is a basis. What we need to do is always find the root of something, the cause of it, and understand why that is. Then we can make a rational decision about something, But if a person hates you, as a white person, if a person hates a person who is white, they have to look at why do they hate that person? What occurred? And then they have to look at, well, what's the connection between these two people? Is it the same person? Is it the same thing? There are many questions around that. If white people are fearful and hateful of Black people, they need to be asking themselves the very same questions. Why do we hate these people? What have they done to us? What is it? But if they do that, and I put it out there as a challenge, if they really explore the causes, they will be found not to be what they thought they were. And I agree that in this context that we're living in right now, Black people, I wouldn't say that their problem would be, you already said it, it wouldn't be a racist problem, because as you said, racism is actually a construct in which you put one to subjugate them to your whims on racial grounds and basis. Well, first of all, what that doesn't apply to Black people is that Black people are not even a race. Black people are the origin of race. All the races came out of Black people. So Black people embrace the spectrum of what is actually called race. And the race is something that has a start to it and an end to it, you know. But when we trace history, we find that, you know, the original people have always been here. You know, it is other people who are in competition who are in that race, because race also means a contest.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, you look at Black people, we're the most welcoming people. The only people that we are not particularly fond of and welcoming is our own people.
Yep.
And that's a problem of great, of great, I'm even struggling to find the word, of great proportions that we need to actually address as a people. And again, things like Dianetics will help us with that. Things like, just open dialogue will help us with that. Things, of breaking barriers, which is what you're doing is absolutely fantastic. I love it. Diary of a Tired Black Man. We're tired of certain things, but until we communicate, until we do what we're doing now and examine it. And I'm not saying that what I'm saying, take it like the gospel. No, chop it up. Go and research it. Prove me wrong if that's the case. And I'm not too big to say, you know what, if you can prove it to be incorrect, then, let's do that.
Of course, that's how we live.
I may go on, but...
Yeah, no, I was going to say that's how we live. They got to show and prove it to be otherwise. And we're never too big to accept if we're wrong at the same time. So that goes without saying. But no, I definitely appreciate what you're saying. And that's why even with this platform, we put this together where we can build. And even one of the things we aforementioned, which was the need for not just a brotherhood code, but even dialogue that brothers can even have on certain levels. I mean, on this podcast, we've touched on multiple things from relationships to, business and stuff, things of that nature. But it's something that people can share their information and share their experience at the same time,
Definitely.
And it's important,
On that point, brother, I just wanted to interject and say that there is a process. There are two processes I want to talk about very quickly.
Okay.
The first process is called deliberative and lawful dialogue. Deliberative and lawful dialogue. And this was originated in the Nation of Islam, particularly a lot of work went into it by a brother called Dr. Alim Muhammad, who you can look up as well, a renowned scholar, who is actually a doctor of both Eastern and Western science, medical doctor, Dr. Alim Muhammad. And basically, there needs to be a process of communication. And there is what is known as deliberative and lawful dialogue. We need to learn how to communicate as a people. And we need to learn how to communicate as human beings. That's number one. The other thing, again, is something that came on the occasion of the 1995 Million Man March, which was the Day of Atonement and Reconciliation. And in there is an 8-step of atonement, that Minister Farrakhan unveiled and unrolled to the world, which are means of actually conflict resolution, you could say, but ultimately leading to the missing steps of forgiveness and a perfect union. And those things as well, are things that we can supply information for to go with this broadcast or podcast, as it goes out, so that people can be aware of this and people can actually go and check it out. So it's to say that we are not only interested in dwelling in problems. We must find and resolve problems of the mind, mental health, problems of human relations, which will do away with the aspects of things like racism, sexism, and all the isms and schisms that exist within, you know, our societies and communities. You know, so those are things that we can actually look at.
Yeah, no, that's real, and it's definitely necessary. And once again, you know, peace to Ali Muhammad, peace to the minister, and everybody doing great work. Because at the end of the day, it takes a nation. It's not one individual. It's many, all of us around. You know, even in Jamaica, we have the phrase "out of many, one people." So there's a lot of people doing good
This is
work.
Jamaica, man.
Yeah, you know, to get the message and stuff out there, man. So that make a lot of sense. As we sort of wind this one down in closing. Let's see where we're at, because we didn't definitely hit most of these topics. I think we definitely got some powerful information out there with this one, and for the listeners, you know, I definitely want to once again big up Anchor FM, because Anchor have been a stellar host, holding us down for a year.
Anchor FM, man. Anchor FM.
Yep, they're making sure that we're sounding right and broadcasting out to Spotify and the rest of the platforms, and about that online as usual. So as we sort of wind this one down, you know, understanding the mental aspects of the cosmic mind and stuff, we've definitely touched on a lot. We've given tools, we've given solutions, we've given recommendation for books, we've given recommendations for lecturers and stuff. I think we've left the people definitely with a lot that they're going to be able to go away, do some research and stuff like that. Going forward, maybe I don't know if this is more of a personal question as such for you, but in terms of us as individuals or organizations and stuff, what can we sort of do? Not say what can we do, because that's a bit open of a question, but I feel there's a need for some form of a caucus between different organizations as well, not just you know, one organization where some people say, oh, well, this is just the Hebrew Israelites, or this is just the nation, or this is just, you know, the Moorish Science Temple. Maybe platforms like this having sort of discourse where it can actually be more civil, and as you said, using some of the teachings where people can have conversations without conflict, because that's one thing with our people. There's definitely a lot of ignorance, and one thing I say with our people is, and you see a lot, whether I talk to some brothers in the States and they get the same thing as I see from people in the UK, where they say sometimes their own family treat white people better than they treat people within their own family household. So, you know, they treat everybody in their family harsh, talking to everybody or harsh, and you know, attitude and stuff, and then, you know, make somebody white knock the door or something happens, and you see a whole different side of them and stuff as well. So in terms of just the general sort of love that we show to each other, and even communication, it's definitely at a lower level. I say that maybe in some of the older generations, because I do think some of the young people have and are breaking up that mold a bit more. You know, I think they're definitely breaking up that mold a bit more. But in terms of us coming together as collectives and stuff, do you have any ways or any advice that you think we should go about doing that? I know we can't really say too much, because I personally believe a lot of these things need to be done within the right sort of forum as well. Not everything being you know, all too public and stuff like that. But in terms of people coming together and connecting together and using different tools and stuff like that, is there anything you would suggest, or would you say, you know, maybe for conflict resolution we could use this teaching, or maybe for this we could use that, or and stuff like that? Or, you know, what do you think? Do you think we need a big website or something? Do you think we need this is sort of just me just asking the questions, really. So
no,
it's a bit
I get it, and I appreciate it. It's beautiful, you know. It brings us to kind of like where we started. I think what it is, brother, is that we must seek knowledge. The first thing is that, you know, knowledge is a fundamental. We must seek knowledge. And when we get that knowledge, we must develop wisdom. And when we get that wisdom, we must create out of it understanding. You know, and when we have those things, then we must apply what we know. Not only should we just have knowledge, be wise to things and understand things, but we must act on the basis of that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. We need to basically communicate with each other. You know, we need to have, when I was coming up, there used to be debates between, say, the Nation of Islam and the Christian Church and the Holy Tabernacle Ministries, or the Nuwabians, as they are called, and people like the Al-Qaeda movement, the Pan-Africanists. We need to have lawful and deliberative dialogue where we're talking for problem solving, and then have programs of action that come from what we're talking about. So after we talk, we must do something, about what we're talking about, so that what we are talking about can be shown and proven. We must get away from deminimizing people to labels. A Muslim, a Christian, a Rasta, a Jew, a Hebrew. What's the common denominator? Let's find the common denominator and build around a common denominator. There are things that need to be done within the Black community. There are things that also need to be done within the greater community. But it all starts with communication. Once you open the doors of communication, you open the doors of experience. And when you open the doors of experience or reality, that basically makes people understand each other. And once understanding is present, then we don't deal with each other in a way that is negative, because we know better. And when we know better, we act better. So I would say more communication is needed. More collective activity is needed. We've got to, just like this pandemic has shown us, we have to really band together. Just like some of the injustices, and God rest our brother George Floyd. Peace to George Floyd and his family. You know what I mean? And we know that God has got the case, so we are watching as He deals with it. But what that has shown us on a global scale is the need to pull together. Of course, there are those that will want to make mischief with it. There are those that will want to divide with it. There are those that will want to destroy with it. But we've got to be wise. So seek knowledge and apply the knowledge. I think that is what I would say, brother, will help us. Let's not run on prejudices. Let's let things that are not progressive die their natural death. Let's work on productivity and constructive and positive, attitudes towards it, because we've got a world to build. We may be experiencing the end of one world, because we're talking now about the new normal, meaning things are becoming a certain way. So let's create an even better world than what we're coming out of. And we can only do that when we apply the knowledge, which is the science, which is non-prejudice, but based on showing and proving. And we take what works and throw away what doesn't work.
Yeah, no,
that's what I'd say, God. That's
actual facts. And, peace to that. And I want to say definitely KRS-One springs to mind, because I think the message I was getting is it's about letting knowledge reign supreme.
Definitely. And that is, I believe that is what KRS-One means, right?
Yeah.
Knowledge ranks supreme.
Yeah.
One. You know what I mean? And it's tight. Again, peace to the culture as well. Hip hop. I'm a long-term Wu-Tang fan. So Wu-Tang, the saga, man, the saga.
Yeah.
So peace to all the brothers, Rocky Mala, the God MC. I want to give a shout out to my brother out here. Maurice Delta and Scythe Jules. Right. I want to say peace to you, Fonzie, peace to you, brother. Peace to the artists from the West Midlands. Peace to the gods. Peace to the whole planet, man. There's so much. I also wanted to say, brother, in closing out, I want to give my shout out to all the NOI, the Nation of Islam, to all the Nation of Islam, the NOI meaning the Nation of Israel. That's the Hebrew Israelites. I want to say peace to the Scientologists, particularly the Black Scientologists worldwide. I want to say also peace to the Bapo story, which is, coming out of Zimbabwe. I want to say peace to my Christian brothers and sisters. I want to say peace to my Rasta community. Rastafari. I want to say peace to all my people, man, who love and create unity, the Pan-Africanists, you know, those that laid down the foundation when we knew nothing about consciousness and build out a platform upon which we stand today. Peace to the Nuwabians, you know, peace to all the seekers and makers of knowledge, you know, all the black fraternal orders that are trying to rise up. I want to say peace and love always, and majestically, peace to the black woman. We love you.
Right on. Yeah, right on. I mean, I couldn't sign off any better than that, man. You didn't put the icing on the cake.
Well, we gotta hail the queen, the true queen. You know what I mean? We gotta hail the queen.
Definitely, we always gotta give praise to that to the divine feminine, and 100%. And you know, with that being said, you know, I'm actually looking forward to, on a side note, because we haven't had any female guests just yet, but I've got a few lined up for the future. So I'm looking forward to those episodes, because they're gonna bring a little something different. We're still representing for the tired black man, but you know, we're gonna hear the tired black women at the same time. But no, it's gonna be different, because I got a few that are different, and you know, as we know, the sisters, their minds are powerful, man. So with that being said, I know you did peace to a lot of the organizations, but lest we forget peace to the MGT and stuff as well, and the GCC.
Oh,
and stuff. So,
definitely.
You know, definitely.
The queens.
Yeah. We everything, man. We representing. So UK young people, everybody who's been representing over this period of time, I've been so proud as well. And as you said, we just got to keep the right message going forward and not get swept into the insanity and madness, because there's a lot at this time and stuff as well. So, and some wish to cause nothing more but further division and destruction. But we'll keep the right fight going. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I know you definitely got to come back on and we chop it up on some other topics and stuff in the future.
Definitely. I look forward to it, brother. I also want to say, Fonzie Neutron, thank you, brother. Thank you. I love your work. I love what you're doing. I love about that life, you know, and I love your versatility, your uniqueness, and your multifaceted level of expression. Brother, keep up the good work. You know, stay blessed, stay safe, and remain at peace, because positive energy activates constant elevation. So peace to you, brother.
Peace. I appreciate that, family, man. And, you know, the support's always appreciated, and the love and that. So it's always been there. So it's a good thing that now everything's kind of getting to culminate to where it needs to be, especially with a lot of the seeds that have been planted from before. So definitely one love, man. And we're going to chop it up. And stay up, stay woke, man. And everybody out there, keep looking out for you folks. Yup.